Hello, today we're going to be watching this Jubilee video. It's been like 2 years since I've watched a Jubilee video, so it's going to be interesting. But, when you see one like this, yeah, you gotta watch it, especially if you're an ex-Jub. Okay, an ex-JW like myself. I do want to actually throw this out here because, believe it or not, this video is kind of on the nose. One of the easiest and most entertaining ways you can actually remember 3 of the 4 main rules of what makes a cult a cult.
It's a cult. It's not a cult, it's a lifestyle. That's exactly what people in cults call their cults. I don't even think you know what a cult is.
People in cults believe they're morally superior, believe they're saving the world, and threaten anyone who questions them.
I'm not going to get into this video. There's no argument to be had. You're literally killing animals. You actually have no morals. You're literally destroying the world while I'm saving it. If you don't stop, I will kill you.
See?
Oh, it's a cult. It's not a cult.
Perfect, right? It's fucking great. And then this is that 4th rule. They force you to cut contact with anyone who's not in the cult. And if they don't force you to, you're automatically going to do it yourself. AKA politics are also cults. Fun, huh? Alright, with that context out of the way, let's officially jump into this video.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. My former religion was more of a cult than a faith.
We got an Indian, huh? I always find it weird when somebody hangs back and then they're the last one to step forward.
What
like they
separates,
seem to
I think, a cult from a faith is the amount of control that they exercise in the individual lives of the members. So, I mean, whether we're looking at like Stephen Hassan's BITE model, controlling your behavior, your access to information, your thoughts, your emotions, or whether it's fog, fear, obligation, and guilt. At the end of the day, they owned our thoughts, they owned our feelings. It wasn't a faith that we could just have and express in our own way. It was all dictated to us as to how we had to express it. And if we fell short of that, then there was a lot of shame.
So did you also feel like it was your personal failing? Like if you weren't doing better, like it wasn't just like this, there might be something wrong with the system. It was like, oh, I'm not following the steps correctly, so I'm a failure?
Yeah, it's called what did you do to pull it in. If you do something, if something happens to you or whatever horrible abuse you may have suffered from, you get put in a room and asked, what did you do to pull this in? You're responsible for your own condition in life.
That is a core principle of Scientology, like absolute all the way to the bottom. You are responsible for every single thing that ever happens to you, and ultimately you're responsible for everything in the universe.
Yeah. That's
wild.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Very similar. It is still similar to JWs. It is.
As far as cult goes, I mean, we had an RPF. I mean, the Rehabilitation Project forces a sort of sequestered away prison system that they would put you in. I did that for 3 years, and it's like no talking to people outside. You run everywhere you go. You don't speak unless you're spoken to. It was like a little prison system.
Again, JWs do have this. They don't have an official title for it necessarily, but that's effectively what disfellowshipping is. This oversimplified way you can call this is just simply shunning. That's what it is. Increased or intense doctrinal study, that's kind of expected of you. They're hoping that eventually you'll feel so guilty or you'll feel so broken or so alone that you'll be desperate enough to come back that you will aggressively and intensively study everything that they tell you to study. The Jehovah's Witness Bible, or it is the Watchtower, or when they had it, the Awake. They're going to have you do that because they're going to want you to do that. That's their hope, because specifically they want you to come back. That's the whole point. That's part of the manipulation process in the first place of getting you to become a member of both of these, or Mormons, is that they're trying to get their hooks in you and manipulate you into feeling reliant upon it, which is also why they don't want you questioning anything. Anything at least that they say you're not allowed to question, aka don't use your own mind. Do not rationalize anything. Just accept what we and our doctrine dictate to you. If you don't do that, now you're poisoning your spirituality, or Satan and his demons are having his way with you. The world is having its way with you. Whatever, you know, depending on your generation of JW, that's the different brandings that they have. And of course, there's even more than that. And they do everything they can to do that. And obviously the huge part of why when you do get disfellowshipped, or in this case, I guess, get put through the equivalent to the RPF, is, or excommunicated if you're old world Catholic, is you are actively shunned. So they act like you do not exist. And they expect you, by the way, even if you're a parent of a minor child, they do expect you to fucking act like they don't exist as well. There is a lot of abandonment that happens with, you know, minors and Jehovah's Witnesses, because it is a requirement. It is genuinely an expectation. You know, from the top down, that's what they expect of you. That's what they teach, because they know they have their hooks in you. Now they want to do that because they want you to feel so much regret and so much shame and so much torture and pain or suffering and sadness and loneliness and everything else, that you, what is quite literally, repent for your supposed sins, which is you happen to use your own fucking mind. That if a God exists, he fucking gave you. And yeah, to fucking use to its fullest extent. Not to fucking be like, well, actually, but these other parts I cannot allow myself to go down because supposedly my doctrine of my faith says that God dictates that we don't do that because that might poison our spirituality, or whatever your brand of that is, whatever your flavor is. It's super fucking stupid. So yes, JWs absolutely have their equivalent to this. It's just old world Catholics call it excommunication. JWs, especially ex-JWs, call it shunning. They call it disfellowshipping, or now it's something else now. It's not called disfellowshipping. It's called removal, I think, is what they've rebranded it to, because again, corporate structure. It's so stupid.
Things like interrogations are commonplace for public parishioners or for staff members. You know, when I was a teenager, I was locked in a room and it said, you can't leave here until you confess to everything that you've done wrong against the church, and you have to write everything down, and time, place, form, event, every time you've ever masturbated, right? As a 15-year-old, it's nothing short of child abuse, in my opinion.
Kind of like, I think, the 3 elder interviews that you all
The judicial
have.
committees,
Three witness, two witness rule, which is, in other words, basically like, nothing actually happens to someone, no matter how fucked up they become. Like, they can be perfectly amazing people, like just super stable, super chipper, everything else, and then they come in to note that, like, oh, I've been fucking raped by insert elder here or something, or insert, you know, person here, or even outside of it. And if there wasn't 2 witnesses to you being literally raped, which obviously there isn't, because that means you'd have 2 people who observed and literally had to be present to watch you and hear you be, which is already why it's so fucking bullshit. It's so stupid. But that shows there is a direct parallel there too, where they're like, oh, everything's your fault. Yeah, that's kind of intrinsic to that of JWs too, as you would expect. I think even Mormons are kind of similar in that way, where it's just like, yeah, anything highly manipulative and control-based is going to always put the blame on you. Because again, like I was kind of alluding to before, that's the key core, like I'd say it's the most core foundational principle of cults like these, of any of the 3, take your pick, that they have to destroy your sense of self. If they do not successfully help you destroy and dismantle your sense of self, your self-confidence, your self-trust, your own rationality, your own free thought, freedom to question things, everything. If they don't destroy it all, you won't become reliant on them, and their fear-mongering won't do anything but piss you off and make you leave, which is the exact opposite of what they're so desperate to pull off, which is they need you to have it destroyed. Because if you do not, and relinquished, given away, because if you do not let it go permanently, you can't be fear-mongered. You can't be controlled like that. That's why it doesn't matter if it's an organization or a corporation or a church, or so a religion or government or an individual person, whether it's a parent, a guardian, a fucking foster parent, a sibling, a coworker, a work boss, it doesn't matter what, a teacher, it doesn't matter what it, who or what it is, if it's a group, if it's a collective, or if it's down to one thing. They all manipulative control freaks, whether group or individuals. This is all their like core key foundational principle, is that they have to destroy your sense of self, make you reliant upon them, so that then they can make you regret it if you actually do either get outcast by them or you choose to leave. And then you will repent, you'll come back, because you don't know how to fucking live. You don't know how to function. You don't know how to operate or go forward without the people or the group you relied upon. That's the point. And that's part of the fear-mongering, therefore, that they do with that brainwashing, is they're trying to do that. That's why they have to destroy your sense of self. It's exactly that. Which shows why, again, they both do have that as well. Because you kind of necessarily have to, if therefore you're also a cult. Just like if you're a dictatorship. Just like if you're pretty much anything political. So on and so forth. It's going to be like that.
How you were saying that Jehovah's Witnesses go after vulnerable people, Scientology has a saying that we make the able more able. So they actually don't want you unless you already are able, which means you can write a check to them.
In Scientology, you have to pay for every service that you do, and you also have to have a membership to the International Association of Scientologists. That has a cost attached to it. They might not have many members,
everything has a cost.
but in terms of per member, they have more money than the Mormon Church, than potentially even the Catholic Church. Catholic Church have a lot of people.
Nope. His head shake, violent head shake there, belongs to both the Catholics, and it should also belong to the Mormons. The Mormons have an egregious amount of fucking money in their coffers. They do. They have just an insulting amount. And the Catholics actually, they're supposedly, even globally, the Mormon Church actually still has more money that they actually know of than the entire Roman Catholic Church supposedly does, which is just disgustingly insulting, considering that that almost all banks were actually based off of the fucking Catholic Church in the first place, when it was the papacy, not the Vatican. It's fucking stupid. And people still grovel up the fucking steps of the Vatican to fucking throw away what little they earn to these fucking lavish and extravagant pieces of shit. So fucking stupid and condescending and there's so much wrong with that. But anyway, but see, with Mormons and with JWs, their wealth comes from donations. Quite literally what Rutherford said after he had officially hijacked the International Bible Students from Charles Russell and turned it into the religion that we now know as Jehovah's Witnesses. Even after he formed the Jehovah's Witnesses, he had publicly stated verbatim, religion is a racket and a scam. He told it to everyone's faces, including his own members of his own church. And look at what happened. They grew. Because people are that fucking stupid and that easy to manipulate. It's fucking infuriating. It's another case in point of that. But he's not wrong. It's always been, yeah, it's half personal opinion and half factual reality. History proves it. It's all a fucking scam.
People? No, per member, per capita. Yes, the Catholic Church has more money than Scientology, but per person, the average donation for a Scientologist per year is way more than any other religious group.
That.
It's a fucking pyramid scheme.
Yeah. Oh, it's wild.
I think another cult element is you can be shunned. Typically, being shunned is about a year. In that time period, you're expected to come, sit in the meeting group, not say hello to anyone, leave, not say goodbye to anyone, and you're supposed to come and do that for a year while no one looks at you, no one talks to you, not even your friends and family.
So you
that
can't
are
talk to your
closest
family
you.
during that time?
If you live at home and you're a minor, you can talk to your family.
But they probably don't treat you.
Depends on the congregation, depends on how they run things, and depends on that's your family as well. A lot of times they will literally try to force you to move out, even if you're a minor, because, you know, you're poisoning their fucking spirituality and their standing. This is why the Jehovah's Witnesses and the governing body are always using specific terms. I can't remember it right now off the top of my head verbatim, but basically, in other words, how do you present to the world? How do you look to the, ironically, the worldly people that you're supposed to otherwise actively avoid because they're Satan and his demons playthings? Which, again, I've mentioned before multiple times, it just has how much it just does not make sense, and it's extremely contradictory and hypocritical. Because it just doesn't work. Why do you give a fuck about the people that you don't give a fuck about, that you're supposed to avoid at all costs, including even thinking about, because they're Satan's playthings, and yet you're so concerned about how you look and present to those people? Like, even with advertising, it barely makes any sense at all. It's really fucking weird.
But not about spiritual things.
Still, yeah.
Many people still can't eat with their family as kids who are shunned by their own family. So I've interviewed people who had like refrigerators, little mini fridges put in their room where they could eat out of so that they didn't have to, you know, cross-contaminate the rest of the house with
But
their
it's only for a
presence.
year, right? No big deal.
Well,
As long as you're doing everything to come back.
during that year, you're expected to submit letters to that body of elders begging to be reinstated, and that they're almost never going to accept your initial letters. So that process is about breaking you.
It's like
it is
shame,
about you
humiliation.
groveling to come back so that you won't leave again, right? Or you won't repeat that sin, whatever it is. And we may not have had your forced labor as far as, I would say we didn't have forced labor, we had coerced labor. And it was the field ministry that we all were made to do, going door to door all the time.
And also building kingdom halls, building assembly halls, doing the landscaping, doing the maintenance, doing the plumbing, doing the electricity, literally everything. Everything construction, everything maintenance, absolutely everything. 100% unadulterated, they get for free labor. This is why, and they're also so desperate, this is why within the last year, the governing body officially opened it up to be like, oh yeah, by the way, now it's down to 18-year-olds can do all the labor stuff and go out in the ministry and stuff. Oh, by the way, you know, basically then just become an actual pioneer. And then, oh, by the way, I think it's like 21 or something like that, or that was down to 18. It was like, you can also now potentially become a publisher, if not upwards of be considered for eldership. Because they're that fucking desperate, because they're hemorrhaging so many people, even though they claim they're growing, you know, via action and reaction, they're just hemorrhaging people, because you don't do that unless you're like, oh fuck, we're gonna run out of demographics, we're gonna run out of members that we can actually even select from, so we desperately need to do that. Plus it makes them more mainstream, it makes them seem more progressive now, because oh, younger generations are now involved. It's not only, you know, these old like 40-plus-year-old white dudes. Now it can be down to like, you know, in your 30s or 20s. It's the building committee, that's right, they call it the building committee. They can now be, I think, down to 18 or 16. Like, it's so obvious. It's so dumb. And that's, you know, also to become more oppressive, right? Progressive to the outside world, the worldly people, the Satan's playthings people. Again, not making any sense. But to appear better to them, more progressive now and open, they also, that's why they started allowing facial hair again. That's why they suddenly also opened it up to where, okay, now women can wear dress pants. They don't have to wear dresses anymore. They can wear dress pants. Technically, it's allowed, but not encouraged. I feel like that's again a necessary thing to add. They don't encourage it. Why don't they encourage it? Because they still don't like it. They still frown upon it. They look down on it, but they're like, but you technically can. And it's not a bad thing. However, we won't like it because we don't want to do this. We just feel the need and the requirement to look better because they're trying to go so mainstream with themselves.
Building kingdom halls, there's so much free labor that organization profits from in the end, financially. And then most of us, if we had any kind of desire to attain any kind of further education, I had scholarships to engineering school and such. I turned them down because I was shamed and told that I had to go knock on doors for 90 hours a month. And I listened, right? Because I fully believed. And I think that's the problem.
That's how they got me on staff working for the church right out of high school.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, 17 years old, and they're like, hey, college? What a joke.
Yeah.
College, that
What
they
is
don't
the
know what they're
point?
talking about. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what? You can go make money? We're going to save the world, right? And so
They can't risk us learning about psychology
Exactly.
or sociology
It
or,
was
or
too dangerous,
history
yeah.
and leave until I had my son, because he came to the ages like I was interrogated. There's something called the children's security check. It's a 99 question interrogation where you hold on to an e-meter. It's like an electrical device. It puts a little current through your body. It has a readout. And it is everything. If you say, oh, I didn't do it, but it says you did it, you did it. And you might have not even done it in this lifetime. You might have done it in another lifetime. You might have done whatever the crime is 1 billion years ago. And I'm curious, did Jehovah's Witness have a past life thing? Do you guys believe,
Absolutely
do they
not.
believe in reincarnation?
No.
No.
No, okay.
Yes, actually, they do. They absolutely do. You can't say no, they don't believe in reincarnation. Yes, they do. That is quite that's still the fucking cult programming of Jehovah's Witnesses going in there. To say no, they don't. Yeah, they do. If you can be resurrected, that's reincarnation. By definition, in every context, that is reincarnation. You are being reincarnated, recreated to re-exist again after you die. And they do believe in reincarnation in Jehovah's Witnesses. If they didn't, the whole paradise narrative wouldn't even fucking exist. It wouldn't be able to exist because nobody would be there. There would be no point to it. Like, not even the trees, the plants, the animals, the things that make anything, at least in human context, can't exist because they cannot be regenerated. They cannot be reincarnated, brought back from death. They can't do that. They can't reanimate. So yes, you necessarily do. They necessarily, absolutely believe in reincarnation. They just rebrand it. That's all that Jehovah's Witnesses ever do. They rebrand absolutely everything. Kingdom halls are churches. Just because they call it a kingdom hall and they insist it's not the same as a church doesn't make it not a church. It's a literal, by definition in every way, at least in the modern context, in definition of church, is a fucking church. And thus, going to meetings is in fact a church service. It doesn't matter how much they demand it is different. It is no different at all. Just because you might not hold communion or something every time, or whatever the fuck else, or flick holy water or something, doesn't fucking make you not a church service, or doesn't make it not church service, or not a church. You are a church, and you're going to meetings, you're going to a church service in a church. That is literally what you're doing. It's just rebranding, which shows that all of these people, the ex-JWs, still have some of that fucking JW cult branding in their head. Cult hooks, because they're like, no, we don't believe in reincarnation. Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. That's to say that they don't is the exact equivalent to also still argue that kingdom halls are very different than churches. Not just in name, they are truly different.
You can believe in what you want, but you can't treat people like that. That's why I protest behaviors, not beliefs.
Agreed.
Yeah, look, cult-like practice is the one thing that has always stood out to me the more I learned about psychology and going to a lot of therapy is narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
That is the backbone. There's always some rich old dude who's a nutbag narcissist that starts these cults, very good at manipulation, ropes people in. I mean, like, we can see it right now with Donald Trump. He's doing the same shit. He's got his own cult. It's the same practices over and over. And if you peel back all of the weird beliefs and the punishment, making everyone feel like they're dirt so that they can, worship the leader, it's all the same behaviors, patterns, cycles.
The phrase that I like is the difference between a religion and a cult is what happens when you try to leave.
Yeah.
For me, it was very severe, harsh, shunning, cutoff in one day because it happened to me in one day. The information control that Jehovah's Witnesses have is very severe, very strict, of course. I had never researched my religion at all. I had never researched it on the internet a single time. And when I finally got the courage to do that and look into a lot of things, it was days on end of research all in one. And I went, okay, this is unacceptable. I have to do something. I have children. I can't be a part of this. I told my parents, they removed me from the family group chat. They sent out a mass text to all of my friends and family that said, she's an apostate, don't speak with her. So even if I wanted to say goodbye to anybody, they wouldn't have answered. I knew not to even try. But if you do run into anybody that you've ever known in public, even if they are related to you, they will not meet your eye. They will not make eye contact with you. They'll treat you like you're dead, is essentially the way it's described.
Can I ask you a question?
I think the best description is how I actually say it, as arrogant as that sounds, which is like you do not exist. That I think that's way better than saying you're dead, because people all the time acknowledge dead people, right? They talk about them, they think about them all the time. They'll look at pictures of them. It's highly abnormal not to do that. So instead, pretending that you do not exist and you've never existed, therefore, I feel like is a infinitely more apt description to tell people about how it works, because that is genuinely what they're doing. They're trying to literally act as if you've never existed before, and you never will exist. You just simply don't exist. And, you know, like, a lot of times they'll look straight through you. And you know how sometimes when people are looking, you can tell they're not looking at you. Like, their eyes are on you, but you can tell they're literally looking through you. As in, they literally do not see you. They're looking through your being. That is beyond it. Like, that is what they're fucking doing. Sometimes. If their eyes are forced to cross over you or meet yours, they will fucking look through you. It is because you literally, to them, do not exist.
Yeah.
Do you think that the people who are shunning, do they believe that they're doing it like for your spiritual good?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a loving thing.
Yeah,
That's what we're told.
okay.
Yeah.
We're all shunned here, right?
Yes.
Everybody, yeah.
So,
We're declared suppressive
Yeah,
people.
we're
Okay.
Disconnection.
So
Different
our
same thing.
apostate is your suppressive person.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
But Scientology goes one step further. It's not just disconnection. If you speak out against Scientology, you become a target, and they will then go after you with a policy called fair game.
Okay.
So when I was
And
doing
many
my
of us
research-
here have been subjected to fair game. It's an ongoing campaign of targeted harassment. They will try and destroy your life in any way they possibly can.
A milder version of that also exists with JWs, especially if you have any kind of a platform or any kind of a public persona, if you will. There's been a lot of these people, especially who've done the ExJW content, where they get cease and desist orders straight from the governing body, straight from the headquarters, because, you know, not just, you know, specific congregations, whatever, because how dare you, you know, like, effectively tell the truth. How dare you tell the truth about the truth? But there has been people who have been taken to court, just outright aggressively, by the governing body, by the headquarters, by the legal branch of the corporation for Watchtower broadcasting. They absolutely take their peak legal team people and they try to destroy you and your reputation. They try to do everything they can with their influence, especially considering, unfortunately, religion has a lot of influence, a lot more than people realize in this country and a lot of other countries in the world than, like I said, people realize. It's not as much as money, but it helps a lot, unfortunately. Like, it's not quite a get out of jail free card. It's like here's a discounted sentence card is what it is. It's really annoying.
When I left, my mom didn't talk to me for 10 years. Yeah, didn't know anything else. I grew up in it, so I had zero. You know, I woke up when I was 27 and a half, and I was just about ready to like devote my life to the headquarters in New York. And then when you go down the rabbit hole and the Matrix pill is swallowed, and you can see everything, and your own family won't even talk to you, your friends and family. It's a psychological torture tactic to do all of that to people. It's meant to torture people. You know, if you take a puppy and throw it outside during winter in a storm, it's going to come crawling back. That's the whole thing. And they get off on seeing you crawl back.
Note how that's exactly what I was saying earlier.
There were some really good people.
That's the entire point.
There's some really well-meaning, sweet people. I think that, you know, all of us can think of probably a handful or maybe a dozen or so that were really sweet people that were highly traumatized, and they were holding on to this belief system for dear life because they had nothing else.
Because they destroy that thing. They have to destroy it so that you will have nothing else. again, right back to the analogy that he just said. You throw the puppy out in the winter, it's going to come crawling back. That's the fucking point. They want you to be hopeless, useless, and feeble without them. That's the fucking point. They want you to destroy everything about you so that you have literally nothing but that, which is how you become reliant upon that person, or in this case, that organization, that group, that doctrine.
Every kid is fucking touched. Almost every kid is abused. Almost every kid is manipulated and made into this codependent, deeply hurt person. And I miss those people. A few of them have woken up and we've reconnected and we're friends now to this day, and we go to like EDC and do Molly together, and it's great.
It's great.
But
it's awesome.
The Jehovah's Witnesses, what, unofficially, it's like 20 million unofficial that go to the big convention every year. That's a lot of fucking people. I don't know the numbers for Scientology.
It ain't that.
It's about 25 or 30,000
Yeah,
internationally at this point. They're shrinking pretty fast.
That's still a lot of people.
Still a lot of people.
On the point of the losing people, and the two hardest things are shedding the cult habits, right? All the mental crap that you still carry with you, even if you turn the switch off on the beliefs, you still treat people like you did when you were in, and overcoming that is a lot of the path. But the other thing, and it really keeps people in, they don't want to lose their community. They don't want to lose their family. They know they step out and it's all over.
Yeah, that's the disfellowshipping process is similar. They weaponize your community at such a level, and because you're taught from the beginning to really only have association within the organization, you have no outside community. I really don't have anyone in my life that I've known longer than 3 years at this point, other than old work acquaintances and things like that. So I've lost all my childhood friends, all my cousins, my nieces, my nephews, my siblings, my parents. I have minor interactions with them over like family business, but literally overnight, 60 of your closest friends and family like literally no longer talk to you. And I sent a text message saying goodbye to my cousins who I grew up with as siblings kind of, and couldn't get any response back and my aunt told my mother if she would have sent the message one day earlier prior to her being announced, we would have replied. So it is like
announce it is
it's done.
Cutoff.
Yeah.
I always have to mention this when people talk about that, because I can't, it doesn't do my conscience any good not to say this, because it will disturb me if I don't, because I think it's such an important thing, is that though I understand both sides of this fence completely, yes, at like an emotional level, you're like, that fucking sucks, because it's like, it's your family, whoever else. I totally get that, but at the same time, when you hear people saying shit like this, like they're all good people, I think at heart, they all have the best intentions at heart, they're just brainwashed. Motherfucker, if they're not born into it, they are adults who are so stupidly gullible and desperate that they chose to believe these things, and they choose to continue to do the things and treat people as they are told and dictated to by the doctrine. Because of that, that is 100% their own damn fault. It is on them, 100% their responsibility, and I think everyone should make them take accountability for it. Like, you are stupid. Take accountability for being incredibly fucking dumb. Incredibly fucking brainless. So fucking brainlessly stupid and gullible. That's not an insult. That's an observable fact. You have to be brainless level of fucking dumb. Like, beyond botched lobotomy dumb to be that gullible and actually choose to believe these things. Just because you were desperate. That's coming from somebody who had no adults that had emotional maturity or concept of emotional control in the way they treated people or anything. My entire childhood growing up, throughout teenage years, everything. Didn't matter if they were doctors, if they were psychiatrists, if they were fucking therapists, if they were teachers, principals, parents, other adults associated, because they were obviously JWs. So, you know, coming from me with that experience, I think should really say a lot, because it's like, yeah, hello? You know, like, McFly, anyone home? Apparently not. The brain departed the station, and now they're excusing it. That's the part I don't like. It's the few people that were genuinely nice, they were genuinely great people, super sweet, and I mentioned the trauma, whatever else. For me, I don't think they're traumatized at all. They clearly still are very happy and believe it. And you can tell by their body language, by the energy they give off, by everything. They sincerely do believe that doctrine, the JW stuff. They do. They just ignore and do not follow certain aspects of it, like the shunning thing. I have never been shunned by certain people. And by that, I mean 2 people. I've never been shunned by in the congregation that I grew up in the most. And those are the 2 people I've mentioned in these videos multiple times, which is Larry or Larry Dabney and then Ralph Steadman. 2 older guys. I'm not sure about Ralph's background. I don't know if he was born a JW or not. But for Larry's case, he was, I think, born in a really strict, I think he said Catholic or was Baptist household. And he went through all the stages of rebellion when he was a teenager, to the point where he went out and he joined a fraternity in college, and he did all the cliche frat guy stuff. He did all the things, right? The drugs, the fucking alcohol, the girls, everything. And then, to further rebel, he went into the military to stub his nose up at them harder. And eventually, after leaving that, he met this girl, Judy. And off the bat, he's like, I'm gonna marry that girl one day. She's going to be mine. And it took him, I think he said, like a decade before they reunited after all this time. And he did marry her. And he was with her the whole time until she died recently, in the last few years. You know, he's still alive and kicking, whatever. But my point for mentioning this is that he was not born into JWs. He converted to JWs exclusively to marry Judy, which is like one of the sweetest, most funny stories ever. He's such an animated guy too. I love how he tells stories. He's such a character. But like I wish people could hear him tell that story and watch him tell it. It's so captivatingly amazing and sweet. But anyway, but my point for mentioning that is, I think people who come from a different religious background, especially when they're strict like that, and then they enter into the JWs, especially if they're there for decades like that, throughout all the different iterations and generations of how they keep flip-flopping and changing different rules and everything else, I think those are the people that are most likely that you're going to think of. And if you found out about them, congratulations. I think that's going to be the common denominator, is they know what it's like to come from a religion like that. Whether it's fundamentalist Baptists or Catholics or whatever else, they know what it's like. They know how it made them feel, especially as kids. And they know exactly what it led them to do and why it did. And that they don't regret it, because it's understandable. It makes sense why they did it. And I think that's important to note, because I'm willing to bet, if you look back and you think about it, I'm guaranteeing almost every ex-JW who can think of those people are going to think of the people who have had their own childhood experiences negatively in a strict religious household. And that's why they don't follow the really strict, rigid fundamentalist aspects of Jehovah's Witnesses, like shunning or, you know, the disfellowshipping rules or anything like that. They don't care, you know. And I think that that's amazing, because they know it's wrong. They dislike it, and they personally choose to discount it, because it's like, this is destructive. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to participate in this because I know what that's like myself from my background. And so they have a lot more understanding, empathy, and compassion for other people. And so they'll still talk to you and everything else, which is a direct defiance of one of the core foundational rules of Jehovah's Witnesses, which is the disfellowshipping rules and or especially the shunning rules of apostates, which I would be apostate. I know they know that. They don't care. And I love, or, you know, Larry doesn't care. And I love that. And I've said this before, but Ralph Steadman was like, he was such a pivotal player and influence and support figure for me at that like tweener age in JWs, when I started to really question things and I really started to look into it and I really started to speak up, because I'm like, I have never really bought into this in the first place. It's boring, it's stupid, and having been diagnosed with schizoaffective as a fucking child and going through the mental health system, there's really no difference discernibly between schizophrenia and religion. So what the fuck am I doing here in the first place, you know? And then all the other things like the policies, right? whether they were contradictory ones or they were the ones like the shunning thing, I always had problems with too. And so I'm just sitting in a contradiction in the Bible or whatever. I'm just like, I'm fucking sick of this, you know? And so I was able to question everything, including doctrinally, to Ralph. And I was able to talk with him about it at, you know, even detail. And he was so supportive of it. And he just simply reminded me every time. He's like, the most important thing, and what Jehovah God would want you to do, is don't believe something just because you're expected to. Whatever you choose to believe, follow that. Don't feel influenced to have to be, you know, stay a JW or whatever else. It doesn't make you a bad person. In fact, if anything, it makes you a stronger person because you're actually following your heart and your intuition basically forward about what you really feel is real and what you believe and what can give you what you need. And that was effectively, you know, what he told me consistently. And he was a very genuine person, so he really did mean it. And he kept talking to me about it. And, you know, again, you're not supposed to do that. And this is a guy who's been in it forever at this point, because he was still in his early 90s at this point. He'd been in it forever. And he still, though he was very devout in it, he didn't also have that usual air of, you know, hurt or disappointment or sadness or concern that like all these religious people tend to have when they hear somebody might leave or something their religion, or leave religion entirely because, oh, poor them, they're going to go to hell, they're going to be in purgatory, they're not going to see paradise, whatever the fuck your belief is in your religion, their brand of fucking snake oil and bath salts. But anyway, and so I think that that's like important to acknowledge too, because I think it's usually the people who have the most experience, especially in their own childhoods with bad backgrounds, especially relating to religion and bad blood there. They understand it, and so that's why they ignore a lot of the core foundational tenets of, or doctrines of, their specific religion, in this case Jehovah's Witnesses, because they know the harm it causes and they know better basically, and so they choose to completely ignore it and defy it. And what's funny is that Larry Dabney has always been a pioneer as far as I understand. Like, he's just consistently pioneering. So it's very interesting to me that they allow that despite the fact that they know that he technically associates with apostates. But that's, I guess you could say, the cool thing about that congregation is that they've always seemed pretty laid back, which I think is pretty cool. But again, that's a highly abnormal experience to have as a Jehovah's Witness as well, which I feel is another important thing to say there contextually, because especially if you're new, that's a very key thing to note, is that my experience is far from normal. So it still was not nice. It was not pleasant because, yeah, it all the mix, you know, acknowledging that like everything they said is bullshit and that there's a lot of it it's not really about control, it's a cult or whatever else. And that having a laid back congregation, having these people who threw out those rules didn't exactly help, obviously. If I would argue, if anything, for me personally, it made it a little bit worse, and I hate it a little bit more, because it's like, ugh, you know? Especially considering, again, that means that those people are also hypocritical and contradictory, which is really kind of frustrating, because, you know, like, they want for you, you want for them. You want them to the best, what's best for them, and you damn well know that it isn't remaining to believe these things.
My parents, I didn't lose my parents when I was 38 and I was shunned. I lost them when I was 8 years old and they lost themselves in this cult. And I never knew them, and they don't know them. I can't have fake people in my life anymore. And I can't have conditional relationships. Yeah. And to be honest, the conditional relationship I had to lose was the conditional relationship with myself. And I owe myself more today than to allow people who would only bring pain into my life to come back into it. I wish them well. I hope that my mom someday, my dad has passed, I hope my mom someday wakes up. If she ever does, I would love to have a couple conversations with her and then turn her loose to go find her own healing, because she's on her own path and it's not mine. I feel a little different about my siblings than I do about my parents.
Is that because they were born into it versus they chose it?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
and that's a little personal, you know. well, my mom's the one who's left. You know, she exercised power and authority over me, right? Whereas my siblings did not.
Right.
And so, you know, I had conversations with her as I was getting ready to leave this thing. And at some point she was like, oh, sweetie, I don't believe all of it. And I was like, what the hell? You told me I had to believe all of it.
Right.
You set me up for this thing. So the only way I want anything to do with any of them, because they're not good for me, and if my phone rang and their name was on there right now, my stomach would sink. I wouldn't be overjoyed. My stomach would sink. If the conversation does not begin with the words, I am so sorry, and I left this thing, then there's nothing there for me. And that's exactly how I started the conversation with my brother when I left, is I reached out to him. I found him on Facebook, and I said, oh my God, I am so sorry I did this to you. I have left this thing. I understand if you never want anything to do with me. I get that. But I hope that perhaps as I show you that I'm a healthier person and a different person, we can have a relationship. And we do today, and it's awesome.
So in terms of mourning, I have a lot of friends I left behind. I don't mourn them. I got married when I was 18 years old, and because we worked in this highest level of the organization, the C organization, they're kind of paramilitary organization, they don't allow you to have children, because that would mean you would be pulled away from your work, and then they would have to pay for raising a kid, which is expensive. So on 2 occasions over the 7 years we were married, she got pregnant, and on both occasions we were forced to have an abortion. Like the ends justify the means every single time.
Like, you're so selfish for wanting to be a parent.
Right. Ask, like, please. If you and your wife at the time weren't in the Sea Org, would you have had kids and kept a child?
I would have 2 kids that are in their 20s right now. I don't. So I mourn that. I miss a lot of other people. I wish them well. I would help them if they ever needed help. But I feel like shit with that other part.
Something I wanted to say throughout this is something I've reiterated many, many times, and that is that there is no difference, literally or discernibly, in any way, shape, or form, between any forms of manipulative pieces of shit. Whether it's a single person, or a group, like a religion, or a cult, or politics, or anything else, there's zero difference. Because fundamentally, structurally, functionally, visibly, every single aspect is the same. Because it's mutually exclusive. If you are manipulative, you are at least a narcissistic sociopath. I do not like it when everybody, including the experts, try to separate narcissism and things like sociopathy and psychopathy, because they are literally mutually exclusive traits. You cannot have one without the other, inevitably. At least with the sociopathy and the psychopathy, you cannot have them without extreme narcissistic personality disorder. You cannot ever have them separated from each other. They are one and the fucking same. You have to, if you have either of those two, you always have NPD. And I mean any form of narcissism, of arrogance, is literal abuse. Especially when you're also a sociopath or a psychopath. Because, again, the main difference between both of those is sociopaths are capable of feeling human, quote-unquote, emotion or complex emotion. Psychopaths are incapable of feeling emotion at all, especially what they consider human emotion, aka complex or complicated emotions. They're incapable of it. That's the difference. One is capable, one is not. Psychopaths usually are just born psychopaths, whereas sociopaths are almost always victims of abuse and sociopaths themselves. Almost always, not 100% of the time, so not exclusively, but the mass majority of the time, they themselves have a fucked up childhood and a fucked up background where they themselves directly experienced living under the wrath of a fucking sociopathic piece of shit. I had that. My dad was that. At the end of the day, there's no difference between them because they all collectively do this. So people, individuals, in other words, and organizations, religions, politics, as I keep saying in this video, right? It's because it's so fucking important. There is no difference between them. Once you are manipulative, you are automatically narcissistic. You are arrogant. And once you are that, you are at least a sociopath, potentially a psychopath. You are strictly there to exploit, abuse, to control people. Doesn't matter what it is. Sociopaths, they usually mask aggressively. So they, what I call masquerade. They build and create this persona depending on the audience that they are talking to, or that they are interacting with, or they are going to be around, or they are in front of, because they identify what those people need and or want, and then they curate that mask and slap it and glue it to their fucking face whenever they're around. They immediately swap it out for that one, because they almost lose any sense of their own selves to the extent at a deeper level than you normally would going through the sociopathy, because now you don't even know who the fuck you are anymore, because you're so fucking reliant on masquerading all the time, building this false sense of self to project what you think or know these other people want and need from you, that they see as the good guys, the great people, the helpful people, the wonderful people, the fun people, whatever it is that benefits them. That gets them their good graces, that gets them trusted, that gets them to be able to hang out, that gets them all the benefits of that, which is that maybe they get free meals out of it, maybe they get free camping trips out of it, whatever the heck it is, they get to have that, they get to enjoy that. But, and that's more ability to exploit the situation with their masks. But eventually, they're also on a hunting mission at those points for a victim here or there. Unless they have a big enough family, say they're a dad, like my case, they have enough victims, 5 in my case, in my family's case, because it was my mom and then us 4 kids. He had all the victims he needed. So now the audiences are literal audiences. He gets to play it off whenever it benefits him, or he knows it's going to benefit him, to play it off as he's this amazing parent. He's this incredible, caring, loving dad who just loves to be able to give his kids the full experience of life, go on trips, or, visit with people, or, get him some luxury, like fucking root beer for an AMW on the way down to see his mom, or whatever. Like, it could be as basic as that, or it could be all the way up to God knows what, In reality, that's double manipulation, because they're manipulating with a mask to their audiences, but they're also manipulating you, because they're making you think you're getting something out of it, and like, hey, you're rewarding me. No, you're not. They're not doing that. They're doing it to manipulate you further, because they know it's going to hurt your sense of self even more. It's going to demoralize you. It's going to break you more. It's going to put more cracks in your veneer, because you're going to experience that I would say dichotomy, but like that division, that difference. You're going to see how it's completely, it's opposites happening at once, because you know what's inevitably going to happen later. Because a lot of times what's going to happen is they're like, oh no, that's totally okay. They'll laugh at these fucking things that if you fucking said it or you fucking did it, they would tear you to fucking pieces for it, because how dare you? That's the worst thing you could ever do, or whatever. But because they're in front of this audience that they have, they play it off as if they love it. But then the moment you can even do it in front of the audience to test, and they will fucking be livid. They'll laugh their ass off and think, oh, this is so great. And they'll be all into it until you do it. And then you do something similar, say the same thing or whatever, and all of a sudden they have that look of like, I'm gonna fucking kill you when we're behind the curtain, like, when we're behind closed doors, because you don't do that. That's not okay, because it's you, and it's just like, fuck off. And so you have, and there's so many more layers to that. And in the whole foundation of this whole thing, of both the Scientology, the JWs, and yes, LDS, that is their fucking core structure. They teach you not only to become a sociopath yourself, that's their hope, their aim, but they themselves are at least sociopathic by nature. But in their case, they didn't become that because of their abuse. That is, at least the leadership. They are sociopaths because they chose to be, because it gives them power and control over you, your mind, your decisions, your thoughts, your everything, your feelings, your reactions. Every last thing is controlled by them, and that benefits them directly, including your finances, actually. Keeps you more reliant on them as well, And on top of that, hey, we get more donations, aka more money, more profitability. Rad. It's a whole thing. So I wanted to point that out as well. And again, if you don't learn from these experiences the correct way, which is not to allow yourself to mimic or repeat the same errors or the same choices and the same kind of bullshit that the people that you've grew up with doing that to you, abusing you, whether it's the religion in this case, or for that matter, also maybe your parents, if you have the disadvantage of having both, like me and my family did, you have to learn from that to where you would be like, I'm never going to fucking repeat this. I'm going to learn from it by having experienced it, lived it, felt it, known what it's like to go through it, known what it's like to heal from it, and also looking back on it. So I can be like, never do that. Let's do the opposite instead. This turned into a over 3-hour recording for an hour-long video. I'm going to go cry in a corner now and then take myself back and shoot myself, if you'll excuse me. God damn. Let me know your thoughts or your experiences in the comments below. I think that would be amazing. Plus, I think it will help a lot of us kind of understand each other better and actually heal a little easier, because we know not only are we not alone, but we also have this ability to see like, oh, okay, yeah, actually that is interesting that apparently this did happen certain other places, various, you know, times and periods during, in this case, J-dubs or whatever. I think would be incredible. I'm sure I'm going to get comments in this video or these videos, depending on which one I do, because from ex-Mormons or current Mormons, because they're probably going to be using the usual comment of like, you can't equate them, they're not at all similar at all, or they're like, well, okay, there's certain things that are similar, but they're still very different because, and then blah, 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 even though it's blatantly not true for those, the majority of people who then leave LDS and J-dubs, because when they talk, they're like, holy fuck, this is identical. I think because this is a middle ground episode, actually, with the Scientologists and J-dubs, yeah, I think that was the fucking aim, was that they figured, okay, well, there's a lot of times, there's a lot of arguments between the both of them, like, yeah, they're not at all similar. And then you bring them together, and go figure, they find out they're basically identical. And I bet that was the point. Is that, not to actually prove that they were identical, so much as they thought they would have a lot more diversion, or divergence, than they actually do, because that's the most common thing you see. But anyway, I digress. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your experience or whatever and your thoughts in the comments below, and I hope to see you in whatever next video might be. Until next time, stay safe. I'll see you around.